Welcome back, listeners. Thanks for listening this morning. Feel free to give us a call anytime, 612-504-8400, or visit us online at havenfinancialgroup.com. When I say anytime, whether it's today, whether it's this week, next week, whatever it takes, if you have questions, our job description is really answering questions in any of these retirement areas. And when I say retirement areas, as today so far, we touched on annuities, wealth management, tax planning and preparation, estate planning, any of these retirement puzzle pieces. And by the way, ask yourself, do you have all the retirement puzzle pieces? Do you even know how to put the retirement puzzle together? If you don't have a partner that can assist you, maybe now is the time to put together a plan, because what's the saying, Kim? A failure to plan is a plan to fail. We don't want anybody to fail, but we certainly have the ability to help lots of people, and we're very thankful for that.
Yes, your other favorite is hope is not a plan. And
that is correct.
And I like that. Hope is good, but hope is not a plan.
That is correct.
Let's talk a little bit about Social Security. I think it's really funny, Larry. I think that you and I are, of an age that we sort of anticipate Social Security is going to be there no matter what, or we certainly hope so. Our parents never gave a question about whether, but we have kids who I don't know what the history of social or the future of Social Security might be. But let's talk a little bit about the history and what it was, put together, what was the reasoning behind it and the way we should be looking at that when thinking about retirement.
Yeah, I was never a real history buff, but over the years, obviously, the Social Security does have a history. Throughout history, people have faced the same things we face today: economic insecurities due to unemployment, illness, disability, death, old age, et cetera, et cetera. It's not something new. And it dates all the way back to the ancient Greeks. They relied on stockpiling olive oil, of all things, as an economic security. Well, the Romans utilized early forms of annuities. How about that? The Romans and annuities way back then to offset their salaries and compensated soldiers, and et cetera, et cetera. So this isn't new. Back in England, back in the 1600s, it marked the state's first systematic approach to welfare. Welfare's been around a long time. I think sometimes overused, but for those that need it, for those that run into underlying problems, and it's meant there to be a reason. It dates back to the Civil War, where pensions were now introduced. A national pension system emerged for veterans, providing a model for future Social Security programs. So it's been around a long time, Kim. Mm-hmm. And I know it's highly politicized, that being Social Security. Both sides of the aisle, they like to do it. I know I have these classes, and a question that always gets brought out, and I say, this is my opinion, but it's been highly politicized for years. It's still here. Mm-hmm. Are there going to be some reforms? There's going to have to be. We're not going to like the reforms. But my opinion, do I think they're going to do away with Social Security? Absolutely not. There are way too many Americans relying on it. My opinion, some of them too reliant. I'm not insensitive to the fact that, hey, there's people out there that are hurting, that need this. But at the same time, again, there's a lot of history with this, and I don't believe they're going to take it away.
Right. Well, Social Security really, for the longest time, Larry, it was the government saying, I don't trust you to save money, so I'm going to save some money for you. And then, we sort of went into some other forms of saving money, 401ks and that kind of thing, where employers were helping you save money. But I think you're right. It's been so politicized now that there's so many theories and so many crazy theories out there about what might happen to Social Security. Let's talk a little bit about if it were to be reformed and some of the ideas that are being tossed around and what some of those reforms might be. You said we won't like them. Well, that's just because we're creatures of habit, or why?
Well, we paid in our whole life. We want back what we paid in. So some of the reforms they're talking about is raising the retirement age to 70. They've already done this a couple times over the years, but it is a serious discussion. I've read some articles recently that it's closer than we think. We'll see. I think back 3 summers ago, France raised theirs from 62 to 64, and there was rioting in the streets. It was
they almost
nasty.
burned the country down. Yeah,
they almost burned the country down. So that's one. Another one, we're not going to get into the weeds here on the show about Social Security is a formula. It is a formula. We're not going to get into the weeds of the formula, but they could change the formula. And my joke is, I'm sure they would consult with us first. And I love your optimism, but highly doubtful. Another one is you've done such a good job saving for retirement on your own that you're not going to get Social Security. It's called means testing. I call it just flat out mean. And at the end of the day, people say, well, that could never happen. Medicare is already a means tested program. So be careful. They could just say, we're going to tax all your income. Okay, that is a possibility. We live here in the state of Minnesota, one of 12 states that still taxes at the state level. And I know there's listings that are contemplating moving to South Dakota, Arizona, Florida, one of those other states, South Carolina. I hear about it, and I've had clients move. In fact, I just had this conversation with newly retired clients this past week. And Larry, what do you think? Should we consider moving to another state? My suggestion is, well, you can consider anything you want, but other states do have other tax implications that I think you should look into first, property tax and other things. Let's face it, Minnesota is a extremely high tax state, and I understand why you might consider doing that.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the history of Social Security. Now let's talk to people out there who are thinking about when they should draw Social Security. Maybe they're 59, they're 60, they've heard rumors that you can draw it at 62. Should I start then? What should I do?
Well, a lot of variables with that. Earliest you're going to take it in most cases is 62. Oddly enough, this might surprise listeners that over 70% of Americans turn it on right away at 62. Maybe shocking to some, maybe not to others. The latest you're going to take it is age 70, and only 1% to 2% of Americans wait till 70. When should you take it? I have no idea your situation, but for many folks, because I hear it, because we've done Social Security and tax classes for years, and some of us have this preconceived, this emotion that boils over that says, well, I'm going to turn it on at 62 and sock it to the government, and wow, I'll take that. Well, it's probably not a good way to make good retirement decisions. For some, if you need the money, that's the only option you got.
Yeah.
For others, if you're continuing to work, then it's probably not going to make any sense because there's income limits prior to your full retirement age, FRA, full retirement age, which is based on your birthday. So many folks listening probably have 65 or 66, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. Full retirement age is based on your birthday. And for some listening, it could be age 67. This is what they're talking about raising till 70. So make an educated decision. If you're a married couple, it should really be a we decision. The same thought pattern that goes into turning on your pension, if you're fortunate enough to have one, spousal continuation, 75%, 50%, 100%. That same decision should go into turning on Social Security because the higher Social Security remains, and I always say your spouse is going to miss you royally, but they do want to have a lifestyle even if you're not here. So do you not want to leave your spouse with as much income as possible? Mm-hmm. I hope the answer is yes, right, because that's what your spouse would want. These are the decisions that we have the ability to help people make educated decisions. It's pretty amazing. Oftentimes they'll come in and we'll have the Social Security discussion, myself or Mitch or many on the team, and they'll go in the conversation, my idea wasn't the best idea. And sometimes that is the case. And our job isn't to steer anybody in any direction. It's to get people to think things through, to make good decisions. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a good, educated decision. That's the whole purpose of our conversation.
Well, I know that it certainly varies because everybody's Social Security benefits are different. But having said that, I know, have a stat about the difference in how much money you can possibly be leaving on the table if you turn it on too soon.
182, the recent study, the average American leaves $182,000 on the table by making the wrong decision. And then if we were to offer to put $182,000 in every listener's IRA, by the way, I'm not going to.
You're not offering.
Everybody would accept. Everybody would accept. So when should you take it? again, it's a coordinated, if you're a married couple, a coordinated decision between the two of you. Because let's face it, for many folks and even listeners, Social Security is way bigger in your lifetime, way bigger than your portfolio for many. In fact, we see oftentimes under normal life expectancy, we know life isn't always normal, but for many, a couple, that could be $1 million or more. And not everybody has $1 million portfolio. So it is a big income stream. Many people have become too reliant on it, but it should be part of your overall retirement planning process. And there's a high percentage of financial advisors in the industry that don't feel comfortable talking about Social Security. We're focused on retirement planning. Sure. Number one income stream for retired Americans. We're having the Social Security conversation. For many of folks, it's where it starts, but we're having them in every single our planning meetings because it is a big core part of retirement.
Absolutely. 612-504-8400. Do you have questions about Social Security? If you do, the folks at Haven Financial Group can certainly answer those questions, help you make the right decision so that you're not either turning it on too soon, turning on the wrong one, or maybe it's time for you to turn it on and you just need some help making the decision about how to go about it. 612-504-8400. Coming up next, we're going to talk about 8 mistakes to avoid when you transition into retirement.